Welcome back to the Lydia Migger channel. Today I'm going to continue my series on the name statistics argument for the reliability of the Gospels and Acts, even though, by my reckoning, this is going to appear on Christmas Eve. So I wish you all a Merry Christmas. And if you're interested, I'll try to remember to put in my video description, just because of the day when this is released, a link to my playlist. You can also just find the playlist on YouTube of my series on the virgin birth that I recorded quite some time back. That was a multi-part series on the virgin birth. So if you're interested, you can go watch or listen to that, because that's more Christmassy than this is. Okay. Last time I talked about what I called mutilating the sample, the fact that in this recent statistical critique of Bauckham's name statistics argument, Gregor and Blais take out of the Gospels sample 26 persons on the grounds that the existence of those persons is attested in documents outside of the Gospels. Josephus, the Pauline epistles, Papias. And as I emphasized there, they're not basing this on what would be a very question-begging assumption that the appearance of these persons in the Gospels is just based on these other documents. They may think that possibly in the case of Josephus, but they know, I think, that they can't just assume that at the outset. That would be question-begging. They base it rather merely on the fact that they don't contest the existence of these people, and then they think that somehow that means that they're completely irrelevant and they should be taken out of the Gospels and Acts data set of persons. And I argued there that that's really a poor reason for doing that, and that they need to be left in. They themselves recognize that as an important part of their argument, and they call it a crucial consideration. So I just want to touch today, hopefully shorter discussion than last time, on some effects that you can see right away in looking at their article would result from this procedure. The overall n-fold sample, so n, like standing for some number, is then in this case 53 instead of 79. So in all of their statistical modelings, they're going to be taking 53-fold samples. So it's just going to make a difference rather than 79-fold samples. A smaller sample is on average less likely to be representative of the population from which it is taken. We can see this by exaggeration. Again, if you only flip a fair coin 4 times, you're much less likely to get exactly 2 heads and 2 tails, exactly a 50-50 division, than if you flipped that same fair coin 1,000 times. All right, over 1,000 times, it's much more likely to approximate overall to 50-50 than only over 4 times. So a 53-fold sample is just less likely to be representative of the population than a 79-fold sample, even though it's not as big of a difference, obviously, as 4 to 1,000. But if we take Elon's data to have some claim of representing the Palestinian Jewish male names, the ones she identifies that way, as they were in reality, then if the Gospels and Acts sample is taken from reality, as reflected in her statistics, if we only have a 53-fold sample from that reality, it's less likely to be representative of the actual statistics within that reality as if we have a 79-fold sample. Also, the results are less important, so that even when it, falls within some sort of a range that we might expect from a sample taken from that population, there's more of a so what factor here. Again, if you have only a 4-fold flip of your coin, and you do get two heads and two tails, you can still say, well, but what if it is an unfair coin, okay, and it just happened to fall two heads and two tails? So if you're trying to decide whether it's a fair coin, a larger run is more likely to tell you that, just as if you know that it's a fair coin, a larger run is more likely to reflect that. Okay, so and they talk about this, Gregor and Blais, that it's uninformative, so that even where we say, oh look, this number of Josephs is what we might expect, you can say, well, yeah, but it's only a 53-fold sample, so maybe that's just chance, or maybe it's a result of something else, or whatever, not a result of they're really drawing these stories from real events with real participants that had these names. So smaller sample, less likely to be representative. The results are less significant, less important, the smaller the sample. Now we can see a couple of concrete effects of this in a couple of their figures. I cannot reproduce these figures due to copyright. They're under copyright. If you get a copy of their article by subscription, or from the authors, if you have it from the authors themselves, or if you have institutional access, you'll see these. So figure 1 that they have, they're laying out some of the most popular names as found in Elon, and then they're comparing the number of occurrences in the Gospels and Acts with the expectation of the what's called a confidence interval. I won't go into detail on that right now, but what we would expect, that within 95% probability that a sample from Elon would fall within this, and then also comparing it to a hypothetical random model, and that's all on figure 1. So a couple of specific examples. You can really see this when the number is small, because a difference just shows up right away. So Ananias, okay, the number that they mark with their little diamond marker as being in the Gospels and Acts is 1, okay, and Ananias is a sort of a popular name. It's within the top 9. It's not as popular as Simon, but so that's pretty low. And as it happens, even within the small sample of persons in the Gospels and Acts, there actually are 2. And that's got a certain amount of importance, again, because it's kind of a small sample to begin with. And that's Ananias, the high priest, who presides over Paul's trial in Acts, and then Ananias, the guy who lies to Peter about the land that he sold, if you know that story. Okay, so that's actually 2, and they both appear to be, Palestinian. They're not from Egypt or something, they're not from Antioch or whatever. So why does it mark only 1? Well, because Ananias the high priest is attested to exist in Josephus. So as we explained last time, if somebody's attested to have existed in one of these other documents, they take him out of the sample of the Gospels and Acts altogether. So now we're saying, oh, look, there's only 1 Ananias in the Gospels and Acts. Now I'm not saying they mention that in their text, okay, but it's represented on their figure. Another example, Annas, there is 1 Annas in the Gospels and Acts. He's the high priest. He presides over a part of the examination of Jesus the night before his crucifixion. They have it marked at 0. Why? Because Annas the high priest is attested in Josephus, so we've just taken him out. It looks like there are 0 people with the name Annas in the Gospels and Acts. There's actually 1. So you can see right away this is even making a difference to the appearance of some of the figures, that anybody who's attested to exist elsewhere, we're just like treating them as if they're not even there in the Gospels and Acts, or contributing to the overall shape and overall appearance of the statistical sample in the Gospels and Acts. Another place where this is going to make a difference pretty clearly concerns an argument surrounding their figure 4. in this place, they complain that there are too many Simons. So, what Bauckham and some of us have pointed out as an actual argument for the Gospels and Acts, like, why are there all these Simons? They kind of turn around the other way. They say it's kind of weak evidence against, but they say it's somewhat evidence against. There's just too many Simons. And they estimate that there should be 3 or 4 Simons within a 53-fold sample taken from that would be kind of like the mean, okay, of the bell curve. Like right smack in the middle would be somewhere between 3 and 4 persons named Simon if the sample was taken from reality as reflected by Ilan. Well, one big part of why we're saying 3 or 4, and there are actually 8 Palestinian males named Simon in the Gospels and Acts, and whoa, that's too many. A big reason why it's 3 or 4 is because it's only a 53-fold sample. Okay, now there are other reasons, and I'm going to be talking about that, some things that are more complicated, maybe a little harder to explain, that I'm going to be going into next time around. But that is part of the reason that it's only, because obviously if you have a larger sample, you're drawing with replacement more times, you're just on average likely, and if there are multiple Simons in the population from which you're drawing, you're likely to get more Simons. So if there are 79 persons and it's a popular name, then you're likely to have more of them in a series of stories surrounding that time and place than if you're only telling about 53 people, even if you're completely telling the truth all the time. So right away you can see that too many Simons argument, they mention too many Jameses as well, but they don't have a figure for that. But that kind of argument is going to be to some degree affected by the sample size. So as they themselves say, this is a crucial point at issue, whether we should take out persons on the grounds, very odd, very strange, very indefensible grounds that their existence is testified elsewhere. I think we should see the inclusion in the Gospels and Acts as an argument for keeping them in the Gospels and Acts data set. The data set is what it is, and we want to look at what that data set looks like, okay? And then we can think of their inclusion in Ilan, if you like, as being on the basis of these other attestations, okay? If you want to talk about separate data sets being based on separate attestations, that's fine. But the Gospels and Acts, as I mentioned last time, do implicitly indicate that they have their own access to these people. And they're telling, in many cases, their own specific stories about these people that are not found in, Papias or Paul or Josephus. They're purporting to be a source in their own right about what happened and about the persons included in what they report that happened. Okay, I know this is somewhat geeky material, but I also know that this paper is being advertised as just completely debunking Bauckham's argument, and so I hope that you will find this interesting and that you'll come back next time when I'll continue with something that's perhaps even somewhat more geeky. But have patience and persevere if you're interested in these matters. I think we're doing something here at the Lydia McGirt channel that you're not going to see anywhere else, at least not right now. So please come back next time, and Merry Christmas.